Hi, my friends. I'm not on the stage. I'm here in an amazing object. In an amazing object. Is it a car? Is it a plane? Is it... What is it? I'm sure that Ollie and Bernd will explain. And I tell you a very interesting thing. I'm sitting here in this object, and the session title is Big Love. Big Love in this object. Bernd, you have to explain me this.
Well, three reasons why it's big love. Of course, everything that has to do with Mini should have this emotional touch to it. Everyone might remember back in 2000 when we relaunched the new Mini, we raised a question, and the question was, is it love? So 20 years back, or 20 years later, we come back and say, it's big love.
It's still love.
It's still love.
And it's
big
even
love.
big love.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's also when we talked about where we go communication-wise, we thought we have to be relevant in the here and now. And last year and still this year, we have to be distant. We cannot meet. We cannot hug. We cannot do things. So we said, what's the message of a humble brand like Mini? Yeah, it's big love. It's togetherness. It's being together. And forward-looking, and for what this vision vehicle stands for is our understanding of going forward in terms of innovation is that it always has to be linked with an emotional touch. It's a human focused innovation. It's not innovation for innovation's sake or purely data-driven cold innovation.
This is a big challenge for a designer. Ollie, from here and now to the future, what made you?
So, well, it's really hard to predict what's going to happen in 10 years ahead. But what we know is, and this is then coming back to big love, there will be love, there will be emotions, there will be the feeling for having your own space. So we asked ourselves, how could mobility look like in 10 years' time? How are we able to use our driving space more properly than today? Based on emotions, based on I would like to spend time with my friends, with my family. I would like to have my own space for work, whatever. And this was the reason why we started from a different perspective rather than four wheels and then kind of a fast car, right? Yeah.
Interesting. So, are you thinking that this object, this future car, will change the reality of our cities?
Well, that's a little bit, we have to almost go back, and I think everyone now sees Mini as the cool lifestyle brand, which is it now, but when you go back, that's not the story of Mini, or not the only one. Yeah, the original story of Mini was that as a pragmatic answer to a problem at the time, after the Suez crisis, lack of oil, lack of resources, and then our, at that time, chief designer engineer Isigone said, what can we do to address that? And he created the Mini, and it was not like the original Mini came to the market and everyone was like, wow, it was a provocation. Yeah? But it was a solution to a specific problem. So we hold that dear. Yeah, and we also say Mini as an urban brand needs to provide answers to challenges of the future. And that's we go back to one of the core ideas at the time was clever use of space, clever use of resources. And that was the idea that in 10 years from time, how can we combine again mobility with the city, and what could be a potential answer of Mini in that sphere?
So interesting. So if we talk about the future, of course, sustainability is a big topic. Ollie, can you explain what are the materials of this car? What were your thoughts? And
first of all, we thought okay, every area you're gonna touch has to feel comfortable. And then we asked ourselves, or most of our team asked themselves, what do you have to today at home? Which materials do you have at home? And it's not a surprise that most of them said okay, normal fabric, right? So it was the first point where we said, okay, maybe we don't need leather because in the winter it's cold, in the summer it might be a little bit hot. So this was, again, an emotional approach. And then mentioning, again, this topic of being resourceful, this is something else we asked ourselves, what would Isigone do if he would build up a new car for today without any heritage, nothing. And he would be smart in resources, and that's what we want to do in the future as well. We need to think about the future, and we try to reflect, we try to understand in the beginning the Gen Z, what
The generation.
right, the generation,
Exactly.
and understand their values, and this is so important for them, as we all know. And it should be something that has to happen naturally. So for us, we didn't ask that question if it should be sustainable or not. It was kind of one given topic, right?
So, when will it be a reality? Are you a futurologist, or who will be the ideal driver? When is it reality? There are so many questions in this, sitting here in this object. And my dear audience, it's really very comfortable. It has a wonderful atmosphere. I never thought this when I saw it from the outside. The inside is, all of a sudden, it's like a Wohnzimmer, like a living room.
You never want to leave.
Yeah, you never want to leave. So goodbye, audience.
Yeah.
It makes me really, it has a spirit, it has an atmosphere.
Yeah.
So when will it be a reality? When do I sit in a real car, not only in a vision?
We are working on it, and I would never,
Hopefully.
I would never call ourselves futurologists, because I would say the approach of MINI is always that of a humble approach, finding pragmatic answers to problems. But of course, we would like to make the world spin a little bit faster than it does into one direction. And that's our ambition here. And as I said, first was last year to define, and we come to that later, what's immediate next generation of products that's coming to the market in 23, but immediately raise the question of what's coming in 2020, 2030, so 10 years from now. So we are working on how can we make that possible. Still a lot of unanswered question, because if you want to go beyond, you start out with something like here, you don't have all the solutions, you don't know how the door works, you don't know is the material sustainable. So it's not like concept vehicles for us have always two functions. It's a sign to the outside world, what is MINI thinking about the future, but it's as much a trigger internally. And they're always with not the things that are possible next year or the year after, but the things that might be possible in 10 years from now, and trigger also our research colleagues to think, okay, then take this, make the fabric wearable in a car. You don't know what the answer is now, but we won't like to have an answer in 2 or 3 years from now.
It's, for a car company, it's a courageous sentence to say, we don't know the answer now. It's very, I think you have a very optimistic approach to this car.
Right, that's maybe within our DNA, being optimistic as a brand, but as well as personalities. When we started, we didn't even think about being courageous. This wasn't the task for us. But it happened that I understood. It feels like, okay, this is a big jump ahead. And it's always, at least, to try out how far are we able to go. And there's still questions in this vision for us, still there. But at least one way to transform it and to describe it in reality, in order being able to understand at least a little bit of it. So to your question, who is driving this Urbanaut in the future? Hard to say, because it doesn't match to the typical classical target group that we have today. But from an emotional point of view, I would drive it because I would feel really like something. I would have something that I'm getting from home to wherever I am. So it's a part of the Wohnzimmer you mentioned, where you're able to take it with you.
Yeah, but clearly, I think what we need in the next 10 years, I think we have this big wave of electrification now, the big wave of connectivity. We also need concept innovation, and you've seen in the last years the big wave of smaller and bigger SAVs. There's a big trend in the market, but I think we need to think beyond. Yeah, what's coming afterwards? What are the new
Right.
vehicle concept innovations. And yes, that was also meant as a little trigger and drop in the ocean of thinking ahead.
I tell you something. Talking to you here in this space makes me very relaxed, makes me very easy. It's cool. It's a cool thing sitting here. And I think as a designer and as a salesperson and as a visionary, you made a very good job. You know that our topic here, a big topic here is Bauhaus. Is this does this goes along with the new Bauhaus? What do you think, Olli?
Well, I think everyone in our design team, and not just design, everyone knows the idea behind Bauhaus, and
Less is more.
right, reduce it. Why? Because due to this age of digital influences from wherever you are looking at, you need to find a way of, someone might call it detox, but from a visual point of view, you need to calm down, and this is crucial, and that's something you see in the entire industry, not just in the car industry. It's happening, and again, because there's one big aim which you are not able to kind of steer, is creating something timeless. It will be proved in 10, 20 years' time. Looking into Bauhaus, everything is timeless. Everything maintained timeless. The chairs, the furniture, everything. And this is this gives me confidentiality that this might work.
This will be a classic car one day. A car?
Maybe, yes.
Can we call it car?
Of course.
Of
Yeah,
course.
of course.
It's a Mini.
Yeah.
It's Big Love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why Big Love? Say it. I need more answers.
More answers to Big
Yeah.
Love. I think the key answer is for us really, and I think we are still in that. And I give you an example because we just in preparation for the first big mini get together for Munich Auto Show, and look at what people have gone through. I think we have to be very conscious of where they are, what they have experienced, and we still have markets like Malaysia, India in big trouble. Also very personally, like our whole mini team India was affected by COVID directly. Yeah. So I think to send a message of say we are here. Yeah. We are together. We are a team internally is important. Yeah. And so the message out there. But if you are not behave like a team internally, according to that, you cannot send the message. And I think the unique position of Mini in the car industry is for me exactly that. I think we will always be a little bit British.
Still.
We are yes, we are a global brand, but we are British, especially in humor. When it comes to humor, we are very optimistic. Yeah, and we also sometimes the term that we use is also being a little bit daredevil. But we do that in a way that you say, you know, we are we do that in a positive general mood, and that's what we wanted to express with Big Love.
Your enthusiasm is very contagious. I'm really. I'm normally the person who is enthusiastic, and I'm sitting here very enthusiastic. There's a saying: high tech, high touch. Does this goes along with?
Well, so this car is high tech, but it doesn't show it. So high touch in terms of you have to be able to interact in a like really a natural way. Therefore, we need the technology, right? We need the technology like the electric drivetrain, like the automated driving. For that, what you want to feel. So it's not for the sake of having buttons, switches, and technology, but for the sake of that, what you want to experience.
This is the new Bauhaus, what you just explained. Hopefully, yes. I'm very impressed. So will it be one day an autonomous car or autonomous vehicle? Right.
Probably. I mean, autonomous driving progresses, and you know this. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, hard to explain the difference. But we of course, we progress. And I think there will be autonomous use cases. With Mini, what is always important is, of course, we always want to have also the driving feeling.
Yeah.
That's in our
Yeah.
genes, where we
Yeah.
call that go-kart feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always needs to be this element of, I'm the driver, I go out there, I have fun driving. And we don't envision a future where minis are, part of a big massive autonomous car. With Mini, we always want to have that element also, the experience of driving. Because it's a statement of freedom, of independence. Yeah, because there's a lot of sentiment against the car industry. But one element that is very important to say, it has always been a symbol of independence and freedom. And of course, we have to move that into a sustainable future. But that element is very strong, and we of course, would like to stick to it.
You work on a real love brand. Since many generations, Mini is a love brand. It's I have to say, my kids, the dream car is a Mini, of course. In my team, I think we have 4 Mini fans. So I'm very grateful. But now let's leave this wonderful object, this wonderful future vehicle. Let's leave future and let's go into reality.
Perfect.
And
Let's do
meet
that.
our audience.
Let's do that.
Kommt. These 2 guys.
Yeah.
Meet the enthusiastic guys of Mini.
Hi,
Come,
everyone.
let's dive into reality. Who of you is driving a Mini? An old one, cool. And I know Alessia is driving a Mini. I know few people here driving a Mini, but if they don't show up, I don't mention them. So we talked about future. Now let's dive into reality now. What's the reality of the Mini of today?
Well, Mini of today, two very operational things.
Don't be too much a salesperson.
Okay. I don't start out with sales. It goes back to a little bit what are the challenges in the here and now. And the challenge at the moment is really, to a certain extent, is the new normal. Yeah, get the team, like the Blues Brothers, get the team, get the band together. As I said, many are still in lockdowns, many come back, home office, etc. Very big task to also leverage what we've learned in the last years, bring the team back together and start off in a new normal. So that's one very team-oriented, but a big challenge at the moment. The second one is, and no one expected that, is that we see a tremendous growth in the car industry. We are even above levels of before crisis in a very short time. I think no one expected that, that the pickup is so strong after the crisis that we have in 2020. And the third one is we are preparing now the next generation Mini that comes in 23. So we are also in the midst of, while we manage sales and communication and things like concept vehicle, we also look to all the things that have a lead time of 2 to 3 years to prepare the next generation of Mini.
Yeah. How will the next generation of Mini look like? What's the difference?
Very familiar, very different. 2 things. What was core in our development, and you see that whenever we do research, don't mess with an icon.
Don't mess with an icon? Cool.
Don't mess with an icon. Which means the core Mini, the 3-door hatch, we would like to modernize, especially in the interior, and some things you have seen maybe in the concept vehicle, some elements. But we would like to, the first look, you have to look at it and you have to say, that's a Mini. It's a modern Mini, but it's a Mini. It looks at me, it smiles at me, it's a familiar thing, because I think what you build up over 60 years, you cannot dramatically change, and you should not, and people love the Mini. Why very different? Because of course we expand our portfolio, so we will also bring other cars to the portfolio, and with that we also want to develop the brand, because what we also don't want is to stand still on 60 years heritage doing the small Mini again and again. We also have to develop as a brand. Interesting.
Olli, you're the designer. Why does the Mini smiles at me?
Actually, it's the face.
Yeah.
It is the face. It looks at you and you have to smile, combined with the size, And this is a challenge today as well, a big challenge, keeping the Mini icon as small as possible. And it's interesting that the smaller you're going to do things, the more expensive they get. Maybe not at iPhones, but in this technology, it's a task. But it's important because it's a part of that what you see when you are approaching a Mini. It's the cute kind of feeling you want to have combined with this compact dimensions.
Since DLD stands for Digital Life Design, it's a perfect fit to Mini, by the way. But DLD is an international brand. Not yet a love brand, but hopefully we will be one day a love brand. What is the international aspect? Where are your markets, your future markets? You told me you've been in China for Mini, 3 years.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between the European consumer and the Chinese consumer? What do you expect from new markets?
We are already a global brand, so we are the only small car brand that is globally relevant. We are the only small car brand in the US.
Yeah.
I remember back in 2002, everyone said you can't sell small cars in the US until we went there. So we are already global, but of course China is a big growth area. Yes, but in the rest of the world we are already there. There we expand from a strong base. When it comes to Mini customers, they are actually, when you look across the world, pretty much the same. Because what they share is a little bit this feeling of, I want to show my personality. What they share, for example, is I want to have premium product substance, but I don't buy this car to show my neighbor that I buy a premium car. What they want is, I want to give a sign of also the values and belief of the brand. And in that respect, our Chinese customers are very, very much the same like US or European customers. And that's unique. We also want to keep that. Mini is a uniquely a democratic brand in that sense, and we want to keep it. Internationally,
what is a democratic brand? How would you describe this?
A democratic brand tries not to exclude someone. And we say we would never do anything that we say we would like to do something that is a show-off, that is a typical topic of prestigious, premium in the old interpretation, but that we are inclusive. That is my understanding of democratic. And as I said, we have billionaires as our customers, but we also have the 18-year-old as
and
our
royals.
customers. And
Royals
as well, we cannot mention, but we have several royals. So many of them have a Mini, because it's also a contextual thing. Mini fits almost in every context. And that's what I mean with it. And also referring to this internationalization, also the connection from my perspective with DLD. One big change for Mini next generation is that we say we go full electric as one of the first brands, go full electric. And full electric is not just the change of the drivetrain. Electric means, and we had this brief discussion already yesterday, it will change eventually our business model. Very much into digital. When you look at the first buyers of electric, they are extremely digital. So our whole customer journey in terms of offline, online integration, the way people buy cars, etc., is completely changing. The next thing is electric only works in an ecosystem of charging, digital. So while 2-3 years ago we might have looked at electromobility and looked at it and say the drivetrain is changing, I think no, we come to the grips is effectively everything is changing.
Everything is changing. What does it mean for a designer? Which is your ideal Mini client?
The ideal Mini client?
Consumer, driver.
So, actually, I don't know whether he or she is old or young, but the typical Mini client from our perspective is someone that has this kind of mindset of wanting to be a part of our creativity, of being a part of a community that is open to everyone, that isn't necessarily seeking out for showing off. So it doesn't have to do with age, but it has to do with your personal with your personal mindset, right? This is important.
Good, interesting. So, are there any audience questions? This is not scripted. Werner, are you driving a Mini?
But it works, because a Mini is always bigger inside than it looks outside. That's one of our key criteria. So,
The Clubman. Yeah. So, thank you so
There's one
much.
question.
There was a question.
Ah.
Rod Breckstrom.
Well, that would be the next
Good
thing.
idea.
Can we,
Look at
Ollie,
his eyes.
Can
Look
we
at his
fit, can we
eyes.
fit wings to the Urbanaut? No, we would like to. For the next 10 years, I think we stay on the ground. Our ambitions fly, we stay on the ground. But who knows what's after 2030?
And you know that Munich is the city of Lilium, the flying cars company.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's a close neighborhood, Oliver.
Yeah.
You should see
I
that.
met those guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Yes, yeah.
Good. I hope, my friends, that these two guys from MINI did a very friendly, very nice appearance. I think MINI is the perfect fit to the DLD audience, car lovers. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Bernd.
Steffi.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Ollie.
you.
Thank you,
That
Ollie.
was a good talk.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
And by the way, I forgot to mention our wonderful room. Can you explain the room? What do we expect if we go in this room?
Well, you see the Urbanaut, which is a concept vehicle, and you see it in the 3 modes of chill, vibe, and wanderlust, because the car can change its mode depending on what you choose and depending on the context that you want.
So, have a look into the future of mobility.
Thank you.